Yours is clean.
Hold on. There's you guys. Okay.
We could use you one more time, Deb. We're gonna start as soon as possible. Sorry. Hey, Theo, I think we still just need to turn it up a little more. Is that right, guys?
Of course.
So maybe I can sit here and test for folks. Are we on? Yeah, okay. Okay, how's this? Any better? 1, 2, 3. Hello? Too low? Oh,
I can turn this a little bit away from that as well.
okay. Thoughts, feelings? We getting anywhere? You wanna do it? Okay. Where's my guy? Oh, here you are. What do you think?
I don't know.
It's loud, okay. Well, I'm also like, it's directly in my face, so it's an echo. I can't hear it, so thank you. If you guys would prefer to just put mics on the table, that's fine. I just.
Taking the flag off. I'll take my flag off.
So we're gonna unplug from the mobile?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Is this now at the right level for you?
It's better.
Better?
There was a ground issue and they were getting a radio station through their.
Really? I didn't even know that was one thing that could happen. Is this better? Is this right now?
It's fine for the room. We're all on
Okay.
with mics.
Put it right
Thank
in
you,
the center
Theo.
of the table, it should pick up everybody, so they don't need to worry about passing around.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. So, hey Theo, did he leave? I guess this isn't getting lower. Is this being here too, like in the shot? Don't worry about it, okay. All right, is everyone good? So we'll get started here in a sec. Yeah.
get started here, I would know. Should I begin? Okay. Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Mazur, Elizabeth Mazur, from the law firm Hughes, Sokol, Piers, Resnick, and Dim. I'm joined this morning by my colleague, attorney Steve Schwartz of Faraci Lang. And I'm also joined by Robert Brooks Jr., the son of Robert L. Brooks, and Jared Ricks, the brother of Robert L. Brooks, both of whom you'll hear from shortly. On December 9th, 2024, officers at Marcy Correctional Facility tortured and killed Robert L. Brooks. During this horrific occurrence, several other Marcy staff stood by, watched, and did nothing. Robert had done nothing to justify the use of any force against him, much less deadly force. Unbeknownst to Robert's killers, body-worn camera passively recorded much of the attack on video. As Marcy staff beat Robert to death, they believed that their actions would never see the light of day. After killing Robert, they went about their daily business as usual. Although the video of Robert's killing is extremely difficult to watch, it holds a mirror up to the violence and abuse Marcy prisoners face on a regular basis. It shows what Marcy correctional officers will do when they believe no one is watching. It paints an all too real picture of the rampant abuses that New York prisoners have reported for years, pleading for help and warning that the lives of people in custody in New York prisons are profoundly at risk. This morning, we have filed a federal civil rights lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Northern District of New York on behalf of the estate of Robert L. Brooks. Mr. Brooks was paying his debt to society. He deserved to live. He deserved the opportunity to finish his sentence and return to his family and his community. Now I'm going to turn it over to Robert's beloved son, Robert Jr.
Good morning. My name is Robert Brooks Jr. Today, my family is going through an unimaginable amount of pain. No one should have to experience what we are experiencing. The murder of my father by the people who are supposed to keep him safe. But we are also feeling incredible support for our community here in Rochester and everyone who's reached out all over the country. We want to say thank you to everyone who is standing up and saying what happened to my father should have not happened to anyone. I can't describe what it's like to receive the news of his murder or the experience of watching that awful video. I felt helpless, like I was there with him and there was nothing I could do. I wouldn't wish this nightmare on anyone. But as painful as it is important that the world sees these images. They have the power to spark the change we need. I want to tell you more about my father, though. He was more than the last final moments. Robert L. Brooks was a neighborhood hero. He was a great man. He was everyone's favorite uncle. He wanted to make sure everybody was happy around him. That's what made him happy. He was very passionate of creating music and writing short stories. One of my favorite memories of my father is when his car broke down, but he still made sure we got to the studio every day. I will continue his legacy, and I will make him proud by making my music. While my father was serving out his sentence, we would talk regularly, and we began to dream of a new life when he had got out. Those officers in the system they work for, they robbed us of that opportunity. And I would never get my father back. They'll have to take it from me forever, but we will not allow his death to be in vain. This pain must lead to justice for my father and for our family, and we will not stop fighting until we get it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jared Ricks, Jaredricks. Robert Brooks was my older brother and my only brother. Robert was 11 years and 1 day older than me, and as an older brother should, he was always there when I needed him. My first words were rah-rah for Robert. He was my role model, my voice of reason, my listening ear, and now he's gone. Growing up, I felt so lucky that Robert was my brother. Everyone loved Robert, and most of us wanted to be like him. I vividly remember rolling up to family gatherings and feeling like a celebrity as our family greeted us. Me personally, I wanted to walk like him, talk like him, dress like him. I wanted people to have that same glow when I walked in a room. No matter who you were or how long it'd been since he last seen you, he'd always make you feel important. My brother was my guardian angel before he got his wings. We frequently went to the movies, bowling, shopping. As I matured, he never shied away from those tough love conversations, which is part has given me the strength to be with you guys today. My brother and I shared a passion for music. He'd often bring me to the studio. When I got older, he started asking for my input on his music. He even let me get on one of his tracks, and I just knew we would go platinum. My brother had a meaningful and unique bond with so many people, some of whom I've known my entire life, and some who have shared their stories with me over the last month. My family and I are taking things day by day. You know, days turn to weeks, weeks turn to months, months turn to years. My brother had done 8 of the 12 years that he was sentenced to as seen fit in the eyes of the law. But the 17 individuals at Marcy Correctional Facility gave him a death sentence, and that's just not fair. People who are incarcerated are human beings. They have rights. They deserve to live without fear that something like this could happen to them. Our family is devastated, but we are also committed. We're going to use our agony to fight for justice so that no one has to watch clips of devastation 30 minutes at a time or go through the plethora of emotions that I've gone through in the last month. We want these killers prosecuted, and we want change. Big bro, we love you, and we won't stop fighting for justice and accountability in your name. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Steve Schwarz, SCHWARZ. I'm an attorney with Faraci Lang here in Rochester, one of the attorneys on this case. As you know, today we filed a complaint in the United States District Court for the Northern District of New York against 17 defendants who are directly or indirectly involved in causing Robert's brutal beating and resulting death. Because New York has sovereign immunity and cannot be sued in federal court for civil rights violations or wrongful death, we will soon be filing a separate action against the state of New York in the New York Court of Claims. Our legal team, headed by Liz Mazur of U. Sokol and me and my firm, Faraci Lang, have extensive experience in this type of litigation. Our firms previously teamed up to successfully resolve the case involving the death of Daniel Prude 2 years ago. Our goal as attorneys is simple: to achieve some measure of justice for the family of Robert Brooks. We view that goal as having 2 separate but equally important components. First, we will pursue all legal avenues available to obtain compensation for Robert's family for what Robert endured in the last hours of his life and what his children have lost as a result of his death. But of equal importance to Robert Jr., Jared, and the rest of his family, we will leave no stone unturned in ferreting out the entire story of how Robert wound up at Marcy and how those who perpetrated this atrocity and those who casually stood by and watched came to believe they would never be called to account for what they'd done. The complaint filed in federal court this morning details not only the acts of hatred and violence perpetrated against Robert Brooks, but numerous instances displaying a pattern of similar conduct that have been reported for years and never adequately addressed. It is the sincere desire of Robert's son, Jared, his brother, and the entire family, that Robert's tragic death not be an end, but a beginning to true reform of New York's medieval prison system that for too long has been driven by a culture of violence and intimidation. After years of lip service, we deem this a realistic opportunity for accomplishing meaningful change. These two goals can only be achieved by using every tool available under the law to uncover the entire story of Robert's death. We have filed the lawsuit this morning in federal court and will be filing the claim in the Court of Claims so we can begin the process of finding out how this horrible tragedy was allowed to happen and how similar tragedies can be averted in the future. With that, we will take your questions, and Joanna here will facilitate the question.
Jared and Robert, very sorry for your loss. I wonder if you have any idea of why Robert was at Marcy that evening, or in your discussions with him while he was incarcerated, did he ever said anything to indicate that he was worried about this kind of thing, or that this was something that he saw happening around him? Okay.
At the present time, we have no information about those questions, and those are questions that we're going to get to the bottom of as soon as we can get started in discovery, but we don't have any information that can help on that.
Have you learned any more about the exact cause of death at this point? And are you pursuing this second lawsuit against specifically Dobbs?
Well, the second lawsuit is against the state of New York. The first lawsuit includes some supervisors in the dock system. And as far as your question to the cause of death was the beating that he took. We don't have the autopsy report yet, but there's no question that there's a causal link between what happened to him and his death. But we don't have any data from the medical examiner as of this point. That report frequently are delayed because of toxicology that they do, but we do expect it soon.
Go ahead.
Jared, Robert, first let me offer my condolences as well. I think when everyone saw the video, there was this shock that it could have gotten to a point that we were seeing. What, if you can, share with us was your reaction when you saw that video for the first time? And had you known before that any of the circumstances that led to your father and your brother's death?
You want to start, Robert?
Yeah. So when I seen the video for the first time, I was speechless. I was devastated. I am a junior, so when I did see those officers beat my father, a part of it, I felt like I was there. I was him in that moment, and that it could happen to anyone. So the real word I would use is just devastated.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would say I was devastated as well. Just knowing that there were 17 individuals, however many were directly associated with delivering the lethal blows, but just knowing that I couldn't be there to help them, I just felt very helpless and enraged.
Do you, have you obviously probably seen that the governor has toured Marcy? There's a bunch of reforms that she's talked about. Do you think that's obviously too little too late in certain situations, but do you think that's a good start? Do you think that's PR and a lot more needs to be done? What do what's your reaction then to what has happened so far?
Well, I think, let me just start out by saying that we're encouraged by the reaction of the governor and the administration. Obviously, words are one thing and actions are another, and we have to see follow through, and we intend to stay on that. Robert and Jared, you want to add anything to that?
So yeah, referring to what Steve said, yes, the bottom line is yes, we want them to get prosecuted, but we want them to do it the right way. instead of not rushing it. So as far as the prosecution goes, we're trying to give them a little leeway. But yes, we want answers. And yes, we do want them to get prosecuted.
So there have been multiple groups that have been getting together, protesting, raising awareness. I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of speak to all these people who want to mobilize to do something. What should people be doing? What should be the goal?
Liz, you want to take that?
Sure. I mean, obviously, it's really, I think, uplifting to see so many people have such a powerful reaction and also just express condolences and support for the family, really. In my opinion, that's the most important. We've gotten so much mail, so many just phone messages from random people wishing the best to the Brooks family and kind of cheering us on in this fight. Maybe I would, I don't know if Robert or Jared has something to add.
I would, me personally, and for our family, I would like to say thank you, thank you, thank you. The support is tremendous. It doesn't go unnoticed. And we want you to keep fighting. We want you to keep going. And if anything we can make happen and we can make possible to work together, we will do it. I just want to say thank you again.
Hi, first of all, offer my condolences, and I wanted to ask, I know there were 17 individuals named in the lawsuit that were involved. I know additional names were coming out over time. Is it 17, or is there other people being looked into that could be added to the lawsuit?
Liz, you want to go?
Sure. So we have named in the lawsuit the people that, based on the information that has been released so far, we believe bear some culpability in Robert's death. We have more questions for docs and the state about other individuals, and we'll certainly be looking at that. But right now, the people we've named are the people that we believe, based on the facts we have, we can proceed against.
We believe we know there was a cover-up, and we don't know at this point how many people were involved in that, and they could become additional defendants as we get more information.
Sorry, let's go back to Izzy.
Thanks. Also, apologies for your devastating loss. In terms of just the length of time that this probably is going to take, as you mentioned, kind of piggybacking off of the support that you're seeing as well. How are you and the family and the team that you have here planning to draw together support for the ongoing fight, and just any messages for the continuation?
Well, I think that our first task is to find out what happened to Robert, and that is going to be a very important part of this. What was as devastating as what we saw in the video with regard to the violence was the nonchalant attitude of the other people standing around watching. And we feel that that is a sign that this is not a one-off incident, but this was business as usual. And so that is going to be a very important thing for us to find out. And with regard to the outreach, we've gotten information from all corners about other incidents, and some of those are in the complaint, and we're still developing others. So I think that at this point, we're at a very early stage because we don't have all the answers. But once we do, I think we'll be able to direct people in a much more meaningful way.
Yeah, I think, like we said previous, we truly appreciate all of the support and the representation that has come from this. Obviously, it's a terrible circumstance and definitely weighs heavy on our hearts, but we truly appreciate and have an understanding with each American that might have someone that is currently incarcerated or someone that has been previously incarcerated, and know that this isn't just a one-off, and their love and support that they've shown me, my family, and our legal team. We truly appreciate it.
How were you notified that your father and your brother had been?
So I remember the call. I was at work, and I got a call from my grandmother, Mary Brooks, and she told me to come home. And I knew something wasn't right. She didn't want to tell me over the phone, so we got the news from the prison, from Marcy.
You talked to them directly, or were you given the news from your grandma?
Yeah, I got the news from my grandma.
So they talked to her.
Yes.
Jared, you?
Yeah, I got the news from my cousin. I was at work as well. It's actually a Christmas party going on downstairs. So for a little while, I kind of felt trapped, just with obviously the vigor of the emotions that I was going through. But yeah, my cousin reached out to me. That's how I found out. I immediately called Robert.
Very sorry for your loss. To your knowledge, had Robert had any previous interactions with any of the 17 people in question?
Yeah, we still have, again, we have no knowledge at this point. We are going to dig deeply into that. The mystery, one of the mysteries here is why he was at Marcy after he was actually housed in Mohawk. So we are very eager to get information on that, find out if there were any prior interactions with these guards, but at this point, we have no information.
Does anyone not go yet, John?
Do you mind, just while you're going through this loss, that there were the guards, there were some that were named in lawsuits previously that they have a track record, just sort of what this means to, that these people aren't new names to have these types of problems.
Yeah, let me start that, and then I'll have Robert and Jared add. There are a lot of lawsuits brought against by prisoners against guards for abuse, and it's very difficult to succeed in those lawsuits for the very reason that there's a lot of clever ways to avoid any evidence of what actually happened. This is kind of the first time that video like this has become available, but it's not the first time that something like this has happened. So I think that the changes that the governor's talking about to make sure that there are no blind spots at prisons is important. But from our standpoint, the guards that have been sued in the past, again, that's not a guarantee that they did things like this, but it certainly is a suspicion that we're going to look into. And guys, do you want to add anything to that?
Robert, you mentioned that you had been making plans with your father about what your life together were going to feel like when you got out. Can you talk about what those plans were a little bit and what that future looks like?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Me and my father, we had big dreams, and it didn't matter the size of them. Like we dream. I have a son, a 7-year-old, and during his incarceration, they would go regularly visit. So we had dreams on just going out and being able to have fun. For dreams as in doing our music, dreams as in he was writing a book. He was writing stuff a lot in prison where we wanted to do a book and we wanted to get it published. He was very close. He was getting close with my grandfather, and my grandfather has a community service. So my father, he felt like God chose his path to help kids to give them kids better opportunity than he had growing up. So he had big dreams of helping the kids and publishing his book and just spending time with his family. He's been incarcerated 9 years, so just without guards being in the way or a time limit, it just spending time together, really.
What's the name of your grandfather's organization?
My grandfather, he has a community service on the what?
Men's Inspiring Boys and Girls.
You mentioned cover up, and I actually wanted to know, when you did first get that call and get the information from Marcy, what was the story that Marcy Correctional told you happened, and how did that compare to what was actually seen on video?
I can answer that. So when we first started calling, obviously, when you find out that a loved one has passed, it's what's the cause of death? Was he in a fight? Who was involved? And for the most part, they wouldn't give us any answers. So I would say for the first week or so, we were getting all of the news through the news in real time, which is, I find, kind of disrespectful a little bit. But as time went on and we met with the governing bodies and things like that, we became privy to some of the situational things that led to this.
Liz, you want to add anything about the Attorney General's office?
Oh, sure, yeah, I guess maybe I'll back up a little bit too. When families lose a loved one who's in prison, it's often really hard to find out anything about what happened. It's extremely distressing for families. It sounds like those agencies, when they were initially communicating with the family, were pretty tight-lipped about what happened. We did meet with the Attorney General's office on the Monday before Christmas, and they kind of briefed us on things that had been going on, and they wanted to make sure that the family had the opportunity to see the video before it became public. And we certainly appreciated that. We could tell they were working hard on that investigation, and but there's still a lot of information we don't have since there's an open investigation. They obviously need to keep some things quiet for now.
Yeah, I'm really interested in learning more about what type of music you and your father were interested in, but also what is the end game here? What do you want to see changed? I'm asking, the relatives here today. What do you want by this lawsuit and by the potential criminal charges that we expect may be coming?
Well, the most important thing is we want change. I want the name Robert L. Brooks to be known forever, and not just for his last final moments, but for the future. So this can't happen to any other individuals in the future, because it's a lot of incarcerated individuals, and I do want them to get prosecuted. Let that be known. Yes, I do want them to get prosecuted, and I also want change. I also want change to happen. That's the main goal. As far as music, my father was very creative. He didn't have a specific category or genre. It comes from R&B, hip hop to pop, soul, jazz. Like, my father was very creative. He was one of his last pieces I can remember vividly is him trying to do like a child cartoon, and he wanted me to do the images, and he would work on the audio part. And he was so excited, creating so many things. So my father was a very great man. I'll let Jared.
Yeah, I'll say, obviously the prosecution is step one, right? Getting these people, bringing justice against them. But long term, I think the goal is to have some reform, some policies and procedures put into place. So like Robert said, this doesn't happen to anyone else. And once those laws go into effect, and that there's no blind spots and cameras to kind of shade the inhumane things that happen behind those walls.
What would you say to those officers who you saw kicking and punching and grabbing your brother by the neck? What would you say to them?
I mean, for me, I would say it's, my brother always used to tell me, to err is human, to forgive is divine. And I'm not at forgiveness yet. I'll just say there's consequences and repercussions for your actions, and at some point those are coming, and I hope you're prepared.
And like, this has been a long journey, so I've really been taking things one day at a time. I truly wouldn't know what to say if I seen those guys. I probably would be terrified for my life. But also, I feel like when you say nothing, that's the strongest thing. And I wouldn't even acknowledge them. I don't believe what they did was right in any shape or form. So I wouldn't really have anything nice to say. So thank you.
I couldn't help but notice the pins that you guys were wearing. You want to tell us a little about that?
So yeah, these pins we're wearing are in honor of Robert Brooks, my father. And my auntie Barbara, she has 1,000 of them made up. And this is just to show our support and feel like I have a piece with me at all times. And also, all these cameras are here, and I want the world to see his face always.
Robert, you mentioned you visited your father in jail and prison during his time that he was incarcerated. Did he ever to you express concerns about his own safety behind bars?
No, my father was very protective, And even if he did feel he wasn't safe, he wouldn't tell me because he know how much I care about him and how worried I would have been. And my father was that type of man. So he didn't know. To answer your question, no, he didn't express his concerns or for his health.
Just hearing that you did visit him and talk to him, what was your last conversation with him like? Or what was the last thing you know over?
So the last time I visited my father was a week prior to his birthday. He's a Leo, and our last conversations was very peaceful and mindful. My father, we never grew up in a church, so my father was getting big into God. He was getting big into the Bible. So our last visit, I remember vividly, he told me, like, you don't know what tomorrow brings. Get close with the Lord, be peace with the Lord. My dad was at peace for coming home. My dad was very much at peace. So our last conversations was he wanted me to be the man he always wanted me to be. And I told him I was working on that. So that was like our last conversation. Thank you for asking.
You mentioned that you both worked on the during the food case as well. Can you talk about the similarities or the lessons that you took from that case compared to this case?
Sure. Well, the crude case obviously involved the Rochester City police officers and a situation where someone who was having a mental health crisis was killed by the police officers' actions. The difference in this case, in a sense, is that Robert Brooks was in the system and was a threat to no one. Was bound as he was being beaten. So the deaths are similar and they're both tragic and horrific. This one, though, was much more purposeful, I think, and that makes it all the more outrageous that these officers felt, not only the officers, but the others that watched, felt that this was just something that they would never have to account for and that they could get away with. And that's what troubles us the most, I guess, is that this is the tip of the iceberg, we think. And that's why we're very interested in digging deeper. But we feel that we successfully resolved the Prude case and got justice for that family. And we hope to do the same thing for this family. But beyond that, and in the Brute case, we also, again, we're hoping to shed light on some of the tactics that have caused these kinds of deaths. In this case, we hope to shed light on what's going on in the prison system.
Oh, one other thing I would maybe just add is that in the Daniel Prude case, like there is in this case, the criminal justice system was also looking at what the officers had done and was determining whether charges should be brought. And that process resulted in no criminal charges being pursued. And that felt like, I think, a big disappointment to a lot of people. And this obviously, we're hopeful that this case does not go in that same direction because some criminal accountability is really important to the family and community and certainly called for based on what we can see in that video.
I'm just curious, does Robert have any other family in the area and how closely have you been communicating with them through this process?
When you say family, can you clarify, please?
Just, I was wondering if he had any other family in the upstate New York region.
Oh, yeah. We have, we have several family. He has, his last name's Brooks. So, and Brooks is my, Mary Brooks, that's our side. That's the mother side. But he's also, he has the Rick side as well. And we're all over the place, but he has a lot of support here in Rochester, yes.
All set and well? All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wonder if I could just get a picture of you.
Yeah, no problem.
And Jared as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, let me just, oh, it's fine, let's come across. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I give one?
Yeah. I see you outside on the internet. Thank you.